You are a Ukrainian soldier. Kharkiv, February 2023. A Russian T-72B3 tank roars towards your position. 45 tons of steel, a 125-millimeter cannon, explosive reactive armor, deadly. You raise an FGM-148 Javelin, 48 pounds, infrared targeting system, fire and forget technology. You take aim. The tank is 1,800 meters away. You pull the trigger. The missile launches, ascends, turns, and strikes the T-72 from above. Where the armor is at its weakest, explosion. The tank is engulfed in flames, 89% hit rate. That's the Pentagon's statistic for Javelin missiles in Ukraine. Out of 112 missiles fired, 100 found their mark. One of the most effective anti-tank weapons ever devised. But this technology isn't new. The concept was invented 83 years ago, in 1942, in America, and immediately copied and improved by Germany. This is the story. From Tunisia in 1942 to Ukraine in 2023, a direct technological lineage. Bazooka, Panzerfaust, Javelin, and you'll understand. Modern anti-tank warfare began in World War II. Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, USA, May 1942. Colonel Leslie Skinner and Lieutenant Edward Uhl have a problem. American infantry lacks an effective weapon against German tanks. The 37mm anti-tank gun is too heavy. Anti-tank mines are too dangerous. Rifle grenades are too weak. They need something new, something portable, something a single soldier can carry and fire. A rocket. Skinner had been working on rocket technology for years. Since 1940, he had been experimenting with solid-fuel rockets for the US Army. Different sizes, different fuels, different ignition mechanisms. He had tested hundreds of prototypes. The problem was always the launcher. How do you safely launch a rocket from a soldier's shoulder? Too much recoil. The soldier gets injured. Too much heat. The soldier gets burned. Too complicated. Too expensive for mass production. Uhl was an artillery officer. He understood ballistics. He understood weapon design. In May 1942, Skinner and Uhl teamed up. 2 weeks of intense development, day and night. The solution was brilliantly simple. An open tube, open at both ends. The rocket is loaded. The propellant ignites inside the tube, but the gases escape from the rear. Minimal recoil, minimal heat for the gunner. The tube, seamless drawn steel. 54 meters long, 60 mm in a diameter, weight 6.1 kilograms. Cost about $20 per unit. Cheap enough for mass production. The idea was brilliantly simple. The rocket is loaded into the tube. Electrical ignition. The soldier aims using simple sights, pulls the trigger. The rocket flies, strikes the target. On May 14, 1942, the first demonstration took place. In front of senior officers, Major General Gladian M. Barnes was present. Uhl fired the rocket. It hit an armored test target, penetration. Barnes was impressed. 5 days later, on May 19th, General Electric received a contract. 5,000 launches, 25,000 rockets. Production to begin immediately. The first batch was ready on June 24th. Just 35 days after the demonstration, the weapon received the official name M1 anti-tank rocket launcher, but the soldiers called it the Bazooka, after a comical musical instrument that resembled a tube. The technical specifications were simple. Caliber, 60 mm, 2.36 inches. Rocket, M6A1 with a shaped charge. Penetration power, about 100 millimeters of armor. Effective range, 137 meters. Rocket weight, 1.54 kilograms. The operating principle was revolutionary. The shaped charge used the Monroe effect. A conical metal liner concentrates the explosion into a focused jet of superheated metal. This jet penetrates armor not through kinetic energy, but through thermal energy and pressure. Importantly, The penetration power is independent of the speed. An armor-piercing shell needs high speed. A shaped charge does not. That meant a slow, portable projectile could penetrate armor. In November 1942, Operation Torch began. The invasion of North Africa. American troops landed in Morocco and Algeria. For the first time, bazookas went into battle. The results were mixed. Against light Italian and French tanks, the bazooka worked well, but against German tanks, there were problems. The early German Panzer III and IV tanks had frontal armor of 50 to 80 mm. The bazooka could penetrate, but only at short range, and only from the side or from the rear. Nevertheless, the German Wehrmacht was shocked. They had no portable anti-tank weapon. German infantry used the 3.7 cm anti-tank gun, weight 450 kilograms, crew 5 men. Or the heavy 7.5 cm Pak 40, weight 1,225 kilograms, crew 7 men. The American bazooka weighed 6 kilograms. 1 man could carry it. 2-man operation, and it could destroy tanks. German troops captured several bazookas during the fighting in Tunisia in November and December 1942. The weapons were immediately sent to Germany, to Berlin, to Munich, to the weapons development centers. The captured bazookas first arrived at the Army Ordnance Office in Berlin. Department for Special Weapons. Engineers under the direction of Dr. Heinrich Langweiler examined the systems. They were impressed and alarmed. Impressed by the simplicity. A steel tube, a battery, simple wiring, no complex mechanisms. Any soldier could operate it after 30 minutes of training. Alarmed because Germany had nothing comparable. German anti-tank weapons were heavy. The 3.7 cm anti-tank gun weighed 450 kilograms. The 7.5 cm Pak 40 weighed 1,425 kilograms. Both needed towing vehicles. Both needed large crews. The bazooka weighed 6 kilograms. 2-man operation, portable, mobile, effective. The Army Ordnance Office ordered the immediate development of a German version, but not as a copy, as an improvement. December 1942, work began. Engineers in Munich at Hugo Schneider AG, HASAG. Engineers in Berlin at Rheinmetall. Parallel development. They identified 3 main problems with the American design. First problem. Caliber. 60 mm was good against light tanks, but not against Tigers or Panthers. German engineers calculated for 100 mm of frontal armor, they needed at least 88 mm caliber. Fortunately, an 88 mm rocket already existed. From the rocket launcher 43, a vehicle-mounted system, they only had to make the launcher portable. Second problem, backblast. The 80 mm rocket produced massive recoil and heat, more than the bazooka. Tests showed. Without protection, the gunner suffered burns to the face and hands. Unacceptable. The solution: a curved steel shield, mounted on the front of the tube, between the gunner and the rocket motor. The shield reflects heat and pressure wave forward and to the side, away from the gunner. Effective, but it added 3.86 pounds of weight. The third problem, electrical ignition. The bazooka relied on dry cell batteries. In the winter of 1942-43 on the Eastern Front, batteries regularly failed in -22 degrees Fahrenheit. Unreliable. The German solution, a magneto-igniter. A small generator creates electrical current when the trigger is pulled. No batteries. Works in all temperatures, -40 degrees Fahrenheit, +122 degrees Fahrenheit, always reliable. Between January and October 1943, prototypes were tested. Kummersdorf proving ground, south of Berlin. Dozens of test shots against captured Allied tanks. Sherman. Matilda, a T-34. The results exceeded expectations. The 80mm rocket penetrated Sherman frontal armor at 100 meters. It penetrated side armor at 150 meters. It penetrated T-34 side armor at 180 meters. Perfect. By October 1943, development was complete. The new weapon was named Raketen Panzerbuchse 43, abbreviated RPzB 43, nickname Panzerschreck, Tank Terror. The technical specifications significantly surpassed the bazooka. Caliber, 80 millimeters, length, 164 centimeters, weight, 9.25 kilograms without the shield, with the protective shield, 11 kilograms. The rocket, RPzB GR 4322, weight, 3.3 kilograms, length 65 centimeters, shaped charge with 660 grams of explosives, penetration power 160 of armor under normal conditions, under ideal conditions, and a 90-degree impact angle, 230 that was massive. The American Sherman tank had 76 mm of frontal armor, side armor 38 mm, rear armor 38 mm. The Panzerschreck could penetrate a Sherman from any direction, even from the front. The Soviet T-34 had 45 mm of side armor, 45 mm rear, 90 mm of sloped frontal armor. The Panzerschreck could penetrate all sides. Effective range, 150 meters. Maximum range, 180 meters, not as far as tank cannons, but perfect for infantry in cities, forests, and mountains. In October 1943, the improved model RPzB 54 was introduced, with a protective shield as standard. Weight increased to 11 kilograms, but the safety for the gunner improved massively. Production began immediately. Germany produced a total of 314,195 Panzerschreck launches between 1943 and 1945, millions of rockets. The weapon was used on all fronts: Eastern Front, Western Front, Italy, Normandy, Ardennes. German infantry loved the Panzerschreck. Finally, they had a weapon against the numerical superiority of Allied tanks. A two-man team could destroy a 30-ton Sherman from a hiding place, from a building, from a trench. The tactic was simple but effective. Gunner and loader hide. Wait until the tank comes within range, 100 meters, 80 meters, 50 meters. Then load the rocket, aim, fire, hit. The tank explodes. Immediately change position before enemy infantry reacts. American and Soviet tank crews feared the Panzerschreck. It was almost silent before firing. The rocket flew at about 110 meters per second, slow for a weapon, but fast enough. A tank 100 meters away had less than 1 second of reaction time. Impossible to dodge. The psychological effect was immense. Tank crews knew. Every building could hide a Panzerschreck, every trench, every hedge. They couldn't see them all. They couldn't take them all out. American reports from Normandy document massive tank losses due to Panzerschreck. British reports from Operation Market Garden likewise. Soviet reports from the Eastern Front show the same pattern. One example, Battle of Caen, July 1944. British Sherman tanks advance into the city, German infantry with Panzerschrecks hidden in ruins. In one day, 23 Shermans destroyed, mostly by Panzerschreck, not by German tanks or anti-tank guns, but by infantry with portable rockets. Another example, Battle of the Bulge, December 1944. German troops surprise American units. Panzerschreck teams destroyed dozens of Shermans and M4s in the first 48 hours. The American 7th Armored Division lost 47 tanks, mostly to Panzerschrecks and Panzerfausts. The weapon had weaknesses too. The backblast revealed the position immediately, a huge jet of fire from the back of the tube. Enemy infantry could see the position. Machine gun fire followed immediately. German teams had to change position immediately after a shot. The reload time was also a problem. About 10 seconds per rocket. In a fight against multiple tanks, that was dangerous. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. If enemy infantry was nearby, the gunners had no chance. The range of 150 meters was limited. Tank cannons could shoot at 1,000 meters. Panzerschreck teams had to get close. Very close. That was dangerous. Despite these weaknesses, the Panzerschreck was one of the most effective infantry weapons of the war. Cheap to produce, easy to use, deadly against all Allied tanks. And the Allies noticed this. In 1943, the Americans developed the M1 Bazooka, improved model, but still 60 millimeters, still weaker than the Panzerschreck. In 1945 came the M20 Super Bazooka, finally 88mm caliber, exactly like the Panzerschreck. But the war was almost over. The M20 came too late for Europe. The Soviets developed their own version, but only after the war. They studied captured Panzerschrecks and developed new concepts based on that. On May 8, 1945, the war in Europe ended. Germany surrendered. Production of Panzerschrecks stopped. Hundreds of thousands of launchers were captured by Allied troops, along with millions of rockets. American troops sent Panzerschrecks to the USA, to Aberdeen Proving Ground, where it had all started, where the original bazooka was developed. The engineers who invented the bazooka were now examining the German improvement on their own invention. British troops tested the Panzerschreck extensively. Their reports praised the penetration power, the reliability, the design. Soviet troops collected everything: launchers, rockets, technical documentation, German engineers. And then something interesting happened. The technology didn't disappear, it continued to evolve. The Soviet Union developed several prototypes in the 1950s. Based on captured Panzerschrecks and bazookas, they wanted something better, something simpler, something that allowed mass production. The result came in 1961. The RPzB, Reaktywna Protivotankovaya Granata, reactive anti-tank grenade. The RPzB was brilliant. Caliber, 40mm launcher, 85mm grenade. Weight, 7 kilograms. Length, 95 centimeters. Simple design, robust, reliable, cheap. The penetrating power, 260mm against standard armor, 330 meters with the improved PG-7VL grenade. Effective range, 300 meters. Maximum range, 500 meters. The RPzB had one major advantage: simplicity. It had fewer parts than the Panzerfaust. It was easier to produce, easier to maintain, easier to train. The Soviet Union produced millions and exported them worldwide. Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Middle East, Africa, South America, everywhere. The RPzB became the most iconic anti-tank weapon of the Cold War. Vietnamese guerrillas used it against American M48 Patton tanks, Afghan Mujahideen against Soviet T-62s and T-72s, Arab armies against Israeli Merkavas. The technology lineage was clear: Bazooka in 1942, Panzerfaust in 1943, RPzB in 1961. Each generation improved the concept. The Americans were also evolving. In 1963, the M72 arrived, light anti-tank weapon, a disposable launcher, caliber 66mm, weight 5.5 pounds, penetrating power 200mm. The idea, a throwaway weapon. Use it and toss it, no reuse, no maintenance. Simple, cheap, effective. The M72 was mass-produced, over 6 million units. It was used in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. It worked. In the 1980s, Sweden developed the AT-4, Anti-Tank 4, also a disposable system. Caliber 84mm, weight 14.8 pounds, penetrating power 420mm. The AT-4 was another evolution. Better penetration, better range, better accuracy. It was adopted by over 20 nations, but the real revolution came in the 1990s. The USA developed the FGM-148 Javelin, a completely new concept. not just a rocket, but an intelligent weapon system. Development began in 1989, a joint venture between Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. The goal, an anti-tank weapon that could destroy any modern tank from a safe distance, with minimal exposure. The project cost over $7 billion over 15 years of development, hundreds of engineers, thousands of tests. The US Army wanted perfection, and they got it. The challenges were immense. Infrared sensors had to be miniaturized. Guidance systems had to be robust enough to withstand massive G-forces at launch. Software had to reliably identify and track targets. Everything had to work in extreme temperatures, minus 40 degrees in Alaska, plus 140 degrees in the desert. Between 1989 and 1994, over 2,000 test shots were conducted: Yuma Proving Ground in Arizona, Fort Benning in Georgia, cold weather tests in Alaska, desert tests in California. Each test brought improvements. Each iteration perfected the system. The Javelin used revolutionary technology: infrared imaging, lock-on before launch, fire and forget, top attack mode. How does it work? The gunner aims at the tank through the command launch unit, an infrared sighting system. It displays the tank as a thermal image. The gunner marks the target. The system locks on, stores the thermal profile. Then, fire. The missile launches, climbs into the air, up to 150 meters. Then it turns and comes down from above, directly onto the roof of the tank. Why from above? Because tank roofs have the weakest armor. Front armor of a modern tank, 800 militarum to 1,000 militarum. Roof armor, 40 militarum to 80 militarum. A massive difference. The Javelin missile has a tandem-shaped charge. First charge destroys explosive reactive armor. Second charge penetrates the main armor, penetrating power 600 mm to 800 mm after ERA. That means no modern tank can survive. Russian T-90, Chinese Type 99, American M1 Abrams, German Leopard 2. From above, they are all vulnerable. The technical specifications are impressive. Total weight, 49 pounds, missile length, 3.6 feet, diameter, 5 inches, maximum range, 4,000 meters, effective range, 2,500 meters. The guidance system is highly advanced. Infrared sensor with 64x64 pixel resolution. Update rate, 30 Hz. The sensor can identify a tank at 2,500 meters. Day or night, in any weather. Fire and forget means after firing, the gunner no longer has to aim. The missile finds the target itself. The gunner can immediately seek cover, can move, can take up a new position while the missile is still flying. That's an enormous tactical advantage. With a Panzerfaust, the gunner had to aim until impact. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, exposed, vulnerable. With Javelin, fire and immediately disappear. The Javelin officially entered service in 1996, first with the US Army and US Marine Corps, then with allied nations. To date, over 20 countries use the system. The first combat use was in 2003 in Iraq, US Marines against Iraqi T-72 tanks. The results were devastating. Javelin teams destroyed dozens of Iraqi tanks. Often from distances over 2,000 meters, the Iraqi tank crews didn't see the missiles coming. They couldn't shoot back. They had no chance. In Afghanistan, the Javelin was used against fortified positions, bunkers, buildings, caves. The precision was perfect. One shot, one hit, minimal collateral damage. But the real test came in 2022, in Ukraine. When Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022, Ukrainian forces already had some Javelins. The USA had supplied about 200 systems between 2018 and 2021. Not much, but enough for initial tests. In the first days of the invasion, Ukrainian Javelin teams destroyed dozens of Russian tanks, T-72B3s, T-80BVMs, even some T-90Ms. the most modern Russian tanks, all vulnerable to Javelin. The USA reacted immediately. On February 26th, President Biden announced a military aid package, $600 million, of which 2,000 Javelin systems. In the following months, more arrived. March, 2,000 more Javelins. April, 1,400 Javelins. May, 1,000 Javelins. By the end of 2022, Ukraine had received over 8,000 Javelin systems. Along with 6,500 additional command launch units, Britain supplied thousands of NLAWs, next-generation light anti-tank weapon. Similar concept to Javelin, but shorter range, 800 meters. Lighter, 27.5 pounds. Also with top attack mode. Also, fire and forget. Sweden supplied AT-4s. Germany supplied Panzerfaust 3s. France supplied Apilus. Ukraine received an arsenal of modern anti-tank weapons, tens of thousands of systems, and they used them brilliantly. Ukrainian teams studied Russian tactics. They identified weak points. They developed strategies, hidden positions, ambushes, precise strikes. The results were devastating for Russia. By the end of 2022, Russia had lost over 3,000 tanks and armored vehicles, many thanks to the Javelin and NLAW. The battle for Kyiv was won with anti-tank missiles, not with tanks, not with artillery, but with infantry and smart missiles. Specific examples showcase their effectiveness. At Hostomel Airport, in February of 2022, a Ukrainian Javelin team destroyed 4 Russian BMD-4M airborne fighting vehicles in 8 minutes. Distance, 1,800 to 2,200 meters. All 4 hit. All 4 vehicles destroyed. The team survived, without losses, near Bucha, in March of 2022. A single Javelin unit halted a Russian tank column. 7 T-72B3s destroyed, 3 BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles destroyed. The column was forced to retreat. The town remained under Ukrainian control. Near Kherson, in November of 2022, during the Ukrainian counter-offensive, Javelins were used to destroy Russian armor at Dnipro River crossing points. Over 20 vehicles sunk. The Russian troops couldn't escape. Hundreds surrendered. In May of 2022, the Pentagon released statistics. Of the first 112 Javelin missiles fired in Ukraine, 100 hit their target. An 89.2% success rate, one of the highest in the history of modern anti-tank warfare. Ukrainian soldiers reported, when targeting was correct, the success rate was nearly 100%. Every shot, a hit. Every hit, a destroyed tank. Tactical flexibility was crucial. The Javelin could be fired from buildings, from forests, from trenches, even from moving vehicles. Ukrainian teams developed mobile hit-and-run tactics. Attack, vanish, reposition, repeat. As one Ukrainian Javelin operator said in an interview, "With the Javelin, I'm not afraid of tanks. I see the tank at 2,000 meters. I aim, I fire, and I'm gone. The tank explodes, I don't even see it. I'm already away." That's the difference. The Panzerfaust forced the shooter to stay, to aim, to wait, vulnerable. The Javelin allows fire and forget, shoot and forget, safety for the shooter, death for the tank. By February 2023, Russia had lost approximately 50% of its modern T-72B3 and T-72B3M tanks. T-80BV and T-80U stocks were reduced by 2/3. This wasn't just Javelins, also artillery, mines, drones, but the Javelin and NLAW played a decisive role. The Russian army attempted countermeasures, cage armor on tank roofs, but this helped little. Javelin tandem warheads pierced the cages, smoke grenades, but infrared sensors saw through smoke, dispersing tank formations. But this reduced their tactical effectiveness. There was no effective countermeasure, except Don't get hit by a Javelin, but that was hard. If a Ukrainian team was at 2,500 meters, invisible, hidden, the Russian tank was already dead. It just didn't know it yet. In 2023, the USA developed an improved version, the Javelin F model. Longer range, better sensor, improved software, even more deadly. Today, in 2025, the Javelin is the standard for modern anti-tank defense. Over 20 nations use it. It has been deployed in at least 8 conflicts. It has destroyed hundreds of enemy tanks. It has changed the way modern armies think about tank warfare. And it all began in 1942 with a simple steel tube, a bazooka. From Aberdeen Proving Ground in 1942 to Kharkiv in 2023. From 60 mm to 127 meters. From manual targeting to infrared fire and forget. From 137 meters range to 4,000 meters. 83 years of technological evolution, but the basic concept remained the same. One man, one missile, one tank, destroyed. The bazooka established the concept. The Panzerfaust improved it. The RPzB spread it. The Javelin perfected it. Today, a Javelin system costs about $240,000. A Russian T-72B3 tank costs approximately $1.5 million, plus crew training, plus ammunition, plus logistics. A single Ukrainian soldier with a $240,000 missile can destroy a $1.5 million tank with a 3-man crew, with years of training, with thousands of dollars worth of ammunition. That's asymmetrical warfare that changes everything. Modern military strategists are debating, are tanks still relevant? If a single infantryman with a Javelin can destroy any tank, why build tanks at all? The answer is complicated. Tanks still have advantages. Firepower, mobility, protection against infantry weapons, but they are more vulnerable than ever before. The future of anti-tank warfare continues to evolve. Drones with anti-tank missiles, loitering munitions, autonomous systems, artificial intelligence. But the basic concept from 1942 remains: portable, deadly, effective. The technological lineage is documented. Bazooka M1, developed May 1942 at Aberdeen, captured November 1942 in Tunisia. Copied and improved in 1943 into the Panzerfaust. Evolution to the RPzB in 1961. Further development into the Javelin in 1996. Battle-tested in Ukraine 2022 to 2025. Each generation built upon the previous one. Each improved the design. Each increased the effectiveness. And it all started with 2 American engineers, Colonel Skinner and Lieutenant Uhl, with a simple steel tube, with a simple idea, a missile that a single soldier can carry, that can destroy a tank. 83 years later, that idea is still destroying tanks in Ukraine with an 89% success rate. That is the power of good engineering. That is the reality of technological evolution. That is the story of the bazooka, of the Panzerfaust, of the Javelin. From 1942 to 2025, a direct line, a continuous development, a proven concept. Modern aviation utilizes German Kommandogerät technology from 1942. Modern anti-tank warfare utilizes bazooka concepts from 1942. Many modern technologies have roots in World War II. The question isn't who invented it. The question is who improved it, who further developed it, who is still using it today. The answer: everyone. The entire modern world builds upon technologies developed 80 years ago, in the laboratory, in war, under pressure, under time constraints. World War II was a technological revolution. Rockets, jet engines, computers, radar, antibiotics, plastics, nuclear energy. Anti-tank missiles were just one innovation of many, but an important one. one that survives to this day, one that still saves lives and takes lives. In Ukraine in 2025, a soldier aims a javelin. He sees a Russian tank. He locks the target. He fires. The missile flies. The tank explodes. And somewhere, in an archive in the United States, lie the original blueprints of the Bazooka M1 from 1942. Drawn by Lieutenant Uhl, approved by Colonel Skinner, the line is clear, the connection is direct. Technology. It lives. This is the story you needed to know. This is the truth about modern anti-tank warfare. This is the reality of technological evolution over the last 83 years, from Tunisia to Ukraine, from the bazooka to the javelin. A single line, a single story, a single lesson. Good technology doesn't die. It evolves, it improves, it survives, and sometimes it saves the world.